Hi everyone! Today I thought I would go back on how I mix my paint, explain a little bit more about my process, how I use the different densities of the pigments in the paint, why I use water in the paint instead of silicone oil and other things. I never used silicone. I use the water to achieve the effects that I want, and I will explain why as I go. So I will zoom you in so you can see from up top what I do, how I mix my paint, the colors I pick, and I will explain the ratios for every kind of paints I have on my table. Alright, so I have my first color here. It's Ultramarine Blue by Quinacridone. It's a heavy body paint. I don't have a lot left, like you can see, but I want a touch of it in my painting, so I'll try to get as much as I can out of that tube. Secondly, I have Brilliant Yellow-Green. This one is a pigment mix, meaning it has 4 different pigments in it to create that color. The 4 different pigments is PG7, PW6, PY3 and PY97. So the PG7, if I remember correctly, is the phthalo green. This one is a kind of titanium white. This one is Hansa yellow light, and this one is another yellow, but I do not remember which one. And how do I know that? Well, PG is for pigment green, PW is for pigment white, PY is for pigment yellow. And to know the exact pigment, well, I will look on Google. Google is my friend. Here I have Quinacridone Magenta. It's a Quinacridone Magenta pigment. And I do not want a lot of it, and those are super pigmented, so I will only put a couple of drops. And finally, I'm going to mix some white. The white I use is Zinc white. I use a Zinc white because it has a heavier pigment density than other whites. The pigment in it is zinc oxide. I really like the golden acrylics because they say exactly what is in this. Pigment white for zinc oxide. Super easy to know and super easy to find the density of said pigment. The zinc oxide has a density of around 5.6 gram per centimeter cubed, which is a lot compared to other colors, and it is a lot compared to water. Water has a density of where did that come from? Water has a density of 1 gram per centimeter cube. So the reason why I add water to the paints I want to sell up is because the water will lower the density of the paint and help the pigments sell up. And that's really how you get the cells. I will never add water to my heavy pigment paint because I want it to stay dense and heavy. The water would just lower its density and help it float too. So basically you want the heavy pigment to sink into the light paint, and by sinking into them, the light paint, well, it has to go up. It has to go somewhere. So that's that action that will create the cells. And the technique I'm going to use today will show that, it will showcase that perfectly. You will see. Now, what I do is I mix my paint to my medium. For the fluid acrylic, the zinc white, what I do is about 50-50. If it's a bit more, it's okay. I'll add a little bit of white because I poured too much. I should put my medium in a smaller bottle, make it easier to work with. That's okay. Now, you have to try and figure this paint, if it was flat in the cup, how much paint you would have to add 50-50. It's a heavy body acrylic, so this one, instead of adding more medium, I add up to 25% water. About 50-50. And this here, like you can see, I put only a couple of drops because it's so very pigmented, and I did not want a lot, but I still do about 1 part high flow acrylic to 10 part medium, so it will easy. There we go. At some point, you don't need to measure out everything, you know by experience too, and you know by feel, by look. The cups I use are 7 centiliters. The line is here. And so I know that's 70 millimeters, and I have about 1/5 of that. Okay, so now, since it's a heavy body acrylic, you need to mix it really well, otherwise you might get clumps in there. I still need to come back to it and add water. I like to come back after, that way I know exactly how much mix I have, the two mixed. And I know how much water I can add without underbinding my acrylics. The yellow-green, it's a soft body acrylic. They are also quite pigmented, so they are nice to work with. I'll leave that aside, come back to it after. Finally, the ink or high flow acrylic. It lacks just a little bit of paint. Yeah, color seems right. Texture seems right for high flow acrylic. They are quite liquid. You don't really need to add water, but I do anyway. I add about 5% water, since they do not really need the water. I add it anyway to help lower the density. And help it sell it. The other reason why I mix them 1 part high flow acrylics to 10 part medium is because the high flow acrylics will dry super quickly, and that will create a top film on your painting, and that top film is pretty bad because you want your painting to dry pretty evenly. That's what the medium adds to the paint. How can I put that? It will extend the drying time and extend the time you have before the top film forms. and that way the paint tends to dry a bit more evenly, and the top film, if it forms too quickly, well, it's quite simple. Your painting will crack because the top film will tend to move on the paint that's not dry under, and that will cause cracks, and you will see the paint, the colors under in the cracks. That's why I add a lot of medium to a little ink. But don't be fooled, that's not the color it will dry as, since the medium will dry completely transparent and will only leave the pigments. So, this one, heavy body acrylic, will need a lot more water. The white doesn't get any water, since I want it to stay dense and heavy. This one is the tricky paint because it has 4 pigments, so it's hard to know exactly where the density stands. The Hansa yellow light pigments and the phthalo green are quite light pigments. The other yellow probably is as well. I'll check on it when I let my paints rest, and I will come back to you and tell you what the 4th pigment in this one is. The titanium one, titanium white in this is quite dense, so it's hard to predict how this paint will react. So it's kind of hard to know how it will react, but I had about 5 to 10% water to a soft body acrylic. Not all that much. It doesn't need all that much. And that's it. Now I will let my paints rest, and we'll come back to paint with these colors. And you can see I will explain why I don't use the silicone with the colors and the techniques I use to get the cells with just using the physics of the paint and their properties. Okay, so my paints are mixed and rested, the bubbles have risen to the surface, and I just glue on it lightly to pop them. So I could pour quicker. I'll just start with a dirty pour, flip cup dirty pour, simple. I like them because I can get the denser paint on top and control in which order the paint will fall on the canvas. But I have a twist, a surefire way to get cells with no silicone at all, using the pigment density and the physics. So I'll just start by the dirty pour. I'll put, oh, and yeah, the second yellow pigment in this one is Hansa yellow medium. So there's a Hansa yellow light and Hansa yellow medium. The only quite dense pigment in there is it's a kind of titanium white. It's not the titanium white there is in paints usually, but it's some kind of it. So I don't know, I'm not sure the density of that, so I'll put it in the middle. And the Quinacridone Magenta is quite light in density. It's a 1.4 gram per centimeter cube, and the Ultramarine Blue is 2.3. Now I'll try not to lose too much paint. So I guess I was about right with my densities. But it's not over. As much as I like this, I really want to show you the best trick, in my book anyway. To pour your white beside. This is a simple cardboard with a cling film on top. I spread the paint around a little bit. And I was sorry to everyone that likes this much better. I do like it. I kind of feel bad putting the white on top, but I want to do it to show the possibilities. So what you do now is kind of a sandwich. I removed a bit too much paint on that side, so I'll tilt like that. And now let the paint work. Give you a time lapse while I pop the bubbles and let the cells appear. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that time lapse. It's probably going to change a little bit again. I have some cells that are still popping, but it's taking a while longer now. It's not popping as fast and changing as fast, so it becomes a bit boring. But I quite enjoyed seeing the cells pop up in real time. It was pretty amazing. Now, the problem here, I have put a little bit too much white. But that's okay, because I think that if I had the whole canvas chaotic looking like that, it would be too much. So now I have a mix, a nice mix of lines, of cells, of chaos, and I quite like this, I really do. The mix of color is pretty much on point, in my opinion. The blue and the green are really pretty together, and the magenta completes it really nicely. The white won't dry super white looking. You'll have a lot of the colors under that will pop through the white because the white is super transparent and will sink probably a lot more too as it goes. As you can see here, there's just a little cells that starting to pop, so it's not over. I'll have more, and I'm quite happy with the result of this one. I had a lot of cells before I even put the white, so I had my consistencies right, I had the densities right. It It's a whole play on the density and consistency of the paint. The white is a little bit more thick when I mix it, since I do not add water, and that way I think it really helps the white to sink into it, except when I put too much of it. But that's okay. I really don't mind it all that much. It's really cool looking. I quite enjoyed this canvas. And we're back, and quite happy with the result. Some of you probably liked it better before I put the white. I did too, but I really wanted to show the possibilities of this painting. I really wanted to show the different effects of the density of the paints, how to get the cells just using the physics and the densities. As you could see when I mixed my paint, it was only paint, medium, and water. Nothing complicated. I also like the result on my plastic film. I'll probably let it dry and use the skins for later. I have to find a use for them. I have to start using them because I have a whole box full of them, and then I am starting another box. And yeah, quite happy with it. I hope it could help you guys understand the effects of the pigment densities, the consistency of the paint. The fluid cream consistency really helps a lot, I think, especially if you end up mixing a bit of a thicker paint like the white. It really helps create the cells, and honestly, I really hope it could help some of you. That's the whole point of the videos. That's why I film. I try to pass on some knowledge, what I've learned through my research, because I'm a fanatic. I love doing research. I love learning new things, especially about paint and art. I'm just fascinated by it all. It's quite complex when you go down to the root of it. So yeah, on that note, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a great day. Make sure to subscribe for more, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!